204 billion. That was MasterCard's estimate for the total value generated by the global gig economy back in 2018. By the end of 2023, that number is expected to more than double to 455 billion. In 2018, there were an estimated 43 million people worldwide who were employed as gig workers. By 2023, an estimated 78 million. To give you some perspective, that's more people employed in gig work than the entire population of France. If gig workers were to set up a small country of their own, they'd be in the world's top 20 by population. But what is the gig economy anyway, and who are its largest actors? The modern gig economy goes by many names: the sharing economy, the platform economy, collaborative capitalism. These are all terminologies that academics continue to wrestle with. However, as journalists have quickly come to realize, the most evocative yet accurate term to describe the phenomenon is the remarkably simple Uberization. The term borrows from an application whose ubiquity has elevated the name Uber from a mere proper noun to the lofty heights of corporate verbdom, reserved for icons like Google, Googling, and Xerox, Xeroxing. So as one Ubers from one end of the city to the other, one may wonder what Uberization even entails. The boring, yet reasonably accurate description would tell you that it refers to the restructuring of an existing service industry by aggregating transactions, eliminating intermediaries, and matching demand with consistent labor supply. Our concern here are the constituents of the growing pool of on-demand labor who are referred to as gig workers. Gig work describes short-term flexible work, also known as a gig, that is most often commissioned or mediated via an online platform. Workers sell their labors to customers via the platform that in turn levies a fee for its service. While both the commission and the degree of control exercised by the platform varies from company to company, its role as the sole digital intermediary connecting supply and demand is what provides it its distinct character. But back to Uber, the original gig unicorn. It built up its reputation by first Uberizing the resilient taxi industry. By creating a platform that paid private drivers to take quick driving gigs in their neighborhoods, Uber provided a highly competitive alternative to the existing medallion taxi driver ecosystem. The platform's success and the availability of cheap venture capital saw Uber's valuation balloon till a firm that was little over a decade old went public, valued at over 82 billion US dollars. Lyft, Uber's rival in the ride-hailing space, similarly debuted at the New York Stock Exchange with a valuation of 20.6 billion US dollars. But it isn't just Uber and Lyft. The International Labour Organization estimates that there were 489 such ride-hailing platforms around the world in 2020, 10 times the number that existed in 2010. But ride-hailing, again, is just the tip of the iceberg. On-demand delivery, on-demand services. The gig economy encompasses everything from apps for on-demand plumbers to platforms that globally auction transcription services. As you can very well imagine, this explosion isn't just limited to the United States. Globally, new gig giants have emerged, and the developing world has been no exception. India in particular has spawned platforms like Ola, ride-hailing, Swiggy, Zomato, delivery, an urban company and services who now boast their multi-billion-dollar unicorn status and their equally large labor pools. How large exactly? We aren't sure, but the Boston Consulting Group pegs that figure at 8 million. 3 years from now, that number goes up to 24 million. 10 years from now, an estimated 90 million Indians engaged in gig work, generating in excess of $250 billion in transactional value. Unlike most developed nations with majority formal workforces, 92.4% of India's workforce is informal. This means no contracts, no benefits, and certainly no paid leave. In this particular context, the emergence of the platform has offered workers in urban centers a form of employment that offers access to asset ownership, guaranteed pay on a weekly basis, and a contract that specifies the terms of their working relationship with the platform. For skilled freelancers located in the developing world, securing work contracted out with US dollar pay scales can prove to be quite lucrative, though competing with a global labor pool brings challenges of its own. From a governance perspective, platforms act as formalizing agents, bringing the previously non-network within the ambit of the state's financial institutions. To enroll on most platforms, one must open a bank account, enable mobile banking, and have digitized records of all financial transactions on the platform. This, in and of itself, is no small feat. Nudging 8 million individuals into the formal financial system brings with it several ancillary benefits like access to credit, social security benefits, etc. But there is a flip side to this story that gig workers have soon come to realize. The Indian economy, much like its counterpart in the United States, grew on the back of generous incentive schemes to lure in drivers. Here, a relatively low base pay was fattened up by lucrative incentives to build a large pool of on-demand labor that could cater to surging demand in Indian cities. This wave of incentives saw millions enroll onto these platforms. Back in 2019, digital news outlets ran stories about how Uber drivers were out earning the formerly employed. Newspapers were filled with anecdotes of MBAs leaving their jobs to drive on the platform. All this began to unravel in 2017 when the incentives were gradually withdrawn. After years of growing their labor pools by artificially inflating compensation, platforms began to cut down on incentives in the face of investor pressure to turn a profit. After all, each had to live up to their multi-billion-dollar valuation. So what happens once incentives are withdrawn? Well, first off, workers come to terms with the precarity of their work. Deprived of the formal employee classification, they are forced to work longer and longer hours to achieve the very same pay that they earned just a few months prior. A few months into this, they realize that as more and more labor floods onto the platforms, they will possibly never make the same amount of money again. For some, this is a sign to leave the platform with their savings intact. But for others who gambled it all on the dream of a better life, it can be too much. In 2017, India began seeing its first reports of driver suicides. The protests that followed have only grown more frequent over the years. This is in large part due to the fact that the lure of incentives had turned workers blind to the pitfalls of flexible labor. Sure, their hours were their own, but still, if you have to work 12 hours a day to make ends meet, then your only real choice is between which half of the day you want to allocate. Falling incomes also meant a loss of respect in a status-driven society like India. In in complexes, signs began to appear forbidding delivery agents from using the elevators. Restaurants began posting signs disallowing delivery agents from using their washrooms. Just last month, an incident of a driver being slapped 22 times by a pedestrian went viral. So where do we go from here? Globally, the choice for workers cannot be limited to precarity or unemployment. While platforms continue to act as drivers of investment and formalization in developing economies, their own financial success must not come at the cost of their labor. Both platforms and nation state bear a shared responsibility towards their workforce that goes beyond employment. A recent survey of gig workers around the world noted that 40% make less than minimum wage. 60% want to quit in the first year. 62% are frequently anxious on the job, scared of accidents, assaults, illness, and financial insecurity. This cannot and must not be the future of work. If gig work is to become the norm, then gig workers must be offered a living wage. They must have access to healthcare and be covered by safe social security nets. Millions of livelihoods depend on our convictions at this historic juncture, and a failure to act now could condemn them all to a life of precarity.